What's up, Heat fans? It's the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I am your host, Nic Rohloff, and on today's show, we cooked up a wild trade idea. There's a lot of rumors surrounding Jimmy Butler, if he's going to sign an extension, if the Heat are going to offer him, could Jimmy request a trade, and I want to go through the scenario to which he doesn't sign an extension. The Heat end up trading him this offseason, and this specific wild idea that I came up with could also land the Heat Donovan Mitchell while trading away Jimmy Butler. Before we get to my trade idea, there's 2 days left in the month of May, and we are in the 3-hole in our May-like battle. Hit that thumbs up icon. Help us out. Celtics today is in the lead by a couple hundred on Knicks now. We trail both Knicks and Celtics by 100 and 200 respectively. We hold a narrow lead over 76ers now, but hit that thumbs up icon because we're bringing daily coverage around the Miami Heat. All right, this is the trade idea. It's a 3-teamer. Yeah, and it's a wild one. So the Heat in this scenario are getting Donovan Mitchell and Max Strus. You bring Strus back home to pair up with Mitchell as well, and you kind of commit to a Bam-led team with Donovan Mitchell. You are sending the Philadelphia 76ers Jimmy Butler in this idea, and then instead of getting like 3 first-round picks you would get from Philly in a Jimmy trade, they just go directly to Cleveland alongside Hero and your own first-round pick in 2030. So you keep the 15th overall pick in this year's 2024 NBA draft, but you give away Hero, you give away Jimmy, and 1 first-round pick to net Donovan Mitchell and Max Strus. And let me be clear on this trade idea. This is a trade that I would only consider if Pat Riley and this Heat front office comes to the conclusion that you do not want to extend Jimmy Butler and you do not want to risk losing him next offseason, because there are a lot of reports and rumors out there that if he doesn't get an extension from the Heat this offseason, well, he might play this year out, opt out, and then leave in free agency. Well, I'm not in the business of losing top 15, top 20 players in the NBA for absolutely nothing. And there's also a situation where maybe he requests a trade. I think that one's very unlikely, but there is that type of possibility if you make it clear you're not going to give him an extension. So this is an idea that is only prefaced on there because I do want Jimmy on this team. And I will be honest with you, even though in this crazy trade idea that we're sending Jimmy Butler to Philly, I still don't want him in Philly. Like, that would be the worst case scenario in my opinion, because you're giving the Sixers, who I despise as an organization, and I know Pat Riley does as well, Jimmy Butler to make a big three of Embiid, Maxey, and Jimmy. That would be the best 3-man group in the entire NBA, because Embiid and Maxey can carry in the regular season, and then when you have those questions about Embiid closing in the playoffs, well, Maxey has proven he can be that guy, and you also have Jimmy, who has done that type of stuff. So it would not be good, at least from a Heat competitive standpoint, to give the 76ers Jimmy Butler. But there is a lot of reasons why you would do this trade, a lot of reasons why you wouldn't do this trade. Now, looking back at it, before we dive into why you do it, why you don't do it, let me know your initial thoughts before I try to sway your opinion. Would you do this trade where you get Mitch Strus and you give up Butler, Hero, and 1 first-round pick? Type A for accept or type D for decline. All right, reason number 1 why you would do this trade if you're Pat Riley. 1, you reset the timeline. What does that mean? Well, then you would have Bam and Mitch as your top 2 guys. They are both age 27. So you now have your duo for the next 6 to 7 years if everything goes according to plan. Bam and Mitchell are really close friends, and they could help grow each other's games in pick-and-roll situations, but Bam doesn't always need to rely on Donovan Mitchell, as Mitchell doesn't have to rely on Bam to get his own shot. So those two, I think, would pair up very nicely on the offensive end. They're close friends, and it would be able to keep Mitchell happy long-term in Miami. You would also get Max Strus back, and Strus had a couple good seasons in Miami, including a pretty up-and-down postseason run a year ago and the year prior. But Strus was decent for the Cavs last year. His three-point numbers took a dip, that is for sure, only shooting 35.1%. You'd expect someone of Strus's caliber to be closer to 37, 38, even 40. But he was able to still get 12 points a game for the Cavaliers. He's also a much better defender than people like to give him credit for. I'm not going to say he's going to lock anyone up, but at least he is not a liability. I would consider him at least an average defender in the NBA. So if you get these two in this deal, you overhaul your starting lineup, where it would probably look something like this, unless you were to make another trade, including Rozier, Duncan, first-round pick, to get someone even better. Donovan Mitchell and Max Strus would likely be your starting backcourt. But then you have the front court that a lot of Heat fans want to see grow, whether it's Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, and Bam Adebayo. Those three would be growing, and especially when you look at Jaime and Jovic, how young they are. You've got the two top 20 players in the NBA with Donovan Mitchell and Bam. You have good connecting pieces that I think actually complement Mitchell and Bam's offensive games and defensive games. Like, this lineup could be really good if you see another leap from Jovic and then another leap from Jaime Jaquez Jr. And then if you didn't make any other trades, you would still have Terry Rozier and Duncan Robinson as the first two guys up off the bench. That is a pretty solid top 7 lineup if you're asking me. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're going to continue the conversation on this potential wild trade, but we have Heat videos every single day. So make sure you are subscribed. You don't miss a thing surrounding the Miami Heat because we are posting on a daily basis. Reasons why you would do this, number 2. The provided flexibility you would have as an organization. What do I mean by that? Well, you would actually free up $27.1 million in cap space for the 2024 season. Because in this trade, remember, you're shipping out Jimmy, who's got a $48.9 million cap hit this year, but you're also moving Tyler Hero, who has a $29 million cap hit. So you're sending out damn near $77 million, and because Mitchell hasn't signed a long-term extension yet, and what Strus is making, you're only getting back, I believe it was 51, so you do clear up $27.1 million in cap space, which would leave you in a very advantageous position while entering NBA free agency. Your cap number after this deal, if everyone opted in and you have this roster right now, you'd be at $155.1 million, which is still over the cap number for the NBA, but obviously that means nothing. All that matters is where you are in the tax. You were under the luxury tax by $7.1 million, but here are the two more important numbers. You were under the first apron tax by $14.1 million, and you were under the second apron by $24.6 million. So this would allow you to go out and make some key signings in NBA free agency, whether it be re-signing Caleb Martin and Haywood Highsmith to keep them as your guys coming off the bench. Or you can go outside the organization and sign a true backup center out there, maybe a Valanciunas that a lot of Heat fans could like or something like that, and Obi Toppin, who's a free agent. Having that much cap space before you reach the first and second apron could give you the ability to sign multiple guys under $9-10 million annually to add to this bench and make a full-rounded roster worth it for this Heat team. More to come in just a second, but we are sponsored by Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app out there, and you can join more than 5 million members today. You pick more or less on 2 or more player stats to win up to 100 times your cash. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. So get on the daily action with your friends, family, and become a part of the Prize Picks community today. And as the finals roll around in the NBA, it just means more on Prize Picks, and so do the star players. You can get boosted payouts on select basketball stars that you won't find anywhere else. But before the finals do get underway, we have another Western Conference Finals matchup tonight, and I'm taking the more than on Luka Doncic 3.5 made threes, less than Karl-Anthony Towns 19.5 points, and I'm rounding out my entry with more than 15.5 points and rebounds for Daniel Gafford. You could take picks like these, and you could also join some celebrities who play Prize Picks like Stephen A. Smith. So download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. You can also go to the description and comments and click on that link, prizepicks.com/CLNS, to get that first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. A third reason why you want to do this trade, hypothetically, is, well, we kind of mentioned it when you reset the timeline, but you get to keep Nikola Jovic and Jaime Jaquez Jr. Now, maybe the Cavs would want more in return than 4 first-round picks in Hero for both Mitchell and Max Strus, but maybe you kind of say, well, Philly, you're getting Jimmy. If you want him, go add another player or pick to that Cavaliers return. But you keeping these two, I think, could be massive for the Heat long term. They're your two big and best assets because I really do think they've passed Tyler Hero. I like Tyler. I love him. But I think more teams would be intrigued by acquiring Nikola Jovic and Jaquez than they would with Hero. Jaquez, as a rookie, averaged 12 points a game, flashing some elite 3-and-D potential. If he's able to improve that three-point ability and shoot 35, 36% from beyond the arc on 4 or 5 attempts a night, you're talking about someone who can average 15, 16 points and can score at all 3 levels of the floor. And then Nikola Jovic, a 6'10", 6'11 big man who has good passing ability, can shoot the 3-ball very effectively, and get downhill using his long strides to Euro step his ass all the way to the rim. Like, these two guys are very, very solid, and as much as I want to see these two guys grow in Miami, I'd love to keep them. I really would. There is just that question that Pat Riley's going to have to answer on which pathway you go. Now, in this hypothetical trade we're exploring today, you keep them and you get to see what they can do growing alongside Donovan Mitchell and Bam Adebayo, but there's also that scenario where you have to trade one or two of them in a deal to get Donovan Mitchell if you're trying to add him to a Bam and Jimmy build. But let me ask you this, and it's a very intriguing question because I think it's honestly split 55-45 at this point, but I'd like to see. Who will be the better long-term player in the NBA? Will it be Nikola Jovic or Jaime Jaquez Jr.? Jovic type NJ, if it's Jaime Jaquez Jr., spam those triple Js. All right, let's flip to the reasons why you wouldn't do this trade. One, you'd ruin your relationship with Jimmy Butler, and this has been a common theme for Miami Heat stars to leave the Heat not on great terms. Just think about how LeBron left. Think about how Shaq left. D-Wade leaving to go to Chicago because Miami wouldn't pay him. That wasn't ideal. Like Chris Bosh, the situation kind of ended poorly. Now, some of these players have made up with the organization, which is good, but the Heat don't have the best track record of ending their relationship with stars and their tenure with them. I'd like to have Jimmy retire a Miami Heat player personally, which is probably why I wouldn't do this trade if you were going to do it in general. Like, I'm probably keeping Jimmy because I don't want to ruin the relationship with him. I love him. He helped us get out of purgatory and brought us to 2 NBA finals. Now just go get him help. Another reason why you wouldn't do this trade. Can you win with this team? As much as I am bullish on the youth and upside of this squad, especially with Terry Rozier coming off the bench, and you get to see that young front court flourish with Jovic, Jaquez, and Bam with the solid backcourt of Strus and Mitchell, like, is that team better than the 76ers if you give them Jimmy Butler? Probably not. Is this team better than the current Boston Celtics? Probably not. Is it better than the New York Knicks, who are probably going to make an upgrade to their roster? Probably not. You'd be at, like, best the 4th best team in the East, maybe the 3rd best team, which I think is good. You'd be competitive. You'd probably have a chance to make the conference finals, and Eric Spoelstra would have to coach his ass off to get you back to the finals. But is this team getting over the hump against some of the top teams in the West between Luka, Kyrie, Jokic, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves? I'm not so sure, and the ultimate goal is to win a title. I don't know if this team is title contending worthy, which is why I think Jimmy is needed, and then you add Donovan Mitchell, and then now that's a contending team. The last reason is kind of also something we mentioned earlier. You're sending Jimmy to a good rival team, and I'm just not in the business of that. Like, I would never send Jimmy Butler to Celtics. I would never send him to the New York Knicks, and I would never want to send him to the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, if it is done for that you have to trade Jimmy this offseason because he requests a trade, and there's only like 2 teams available, and the 76ers have the best package, I'm all for doing best for the organization, but if I could have my way, I would definitely not trade him to Philly out of any other team I could send him in the NBA. The 3 teams I wouldn't send him to: Sixers, Knicks, Celtics. I'm not doing it. I just don't want to do it, man. I can't see Jimmy in those uniforms and then clowning Miami when they would beat us in the postseason. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. As always, follow me on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. We're talking more Heat basketball over there on a daily basis. And if you have any questions about the trade, the luxury tax, what the Heat can do in the draft and free agency, go shoot me a DM or respond to any of my tweets. I will respond. I'm not a fraud. So follow me at Nic_Rohloff.